Be here in Burnaby, Vancouver-based real estate agent, and welcome to Rapid Fire Real Estate, where we go through a half a dozen topics, spend a couple of minutes on each, and you can take that intel with you out into the marketplace. And if that's not enough, feel free to reach out. My contact is in the show notes below. Okay, what I want to do for today is talk about 6 topics. The first was from an article that I saw in the Globe and Mail. It's titled 80% of Toronto area investors are losing money on their condos. And I got to thinking, well, is that apply to Vancouver? So that's the first topic we're going to talk about. The second one is here. Can you trade real estate? I'll give you my condo for your townhouse. Vendor take-back mortgages. When the seller offers you a mortgage, not the bank. 3 ways to buy real estate. The term average, when it's used in the newspapers with regards to income or average net worth, isn't misleading. And builders' views on fourplexes. Now, fourplexes are supposed to be the panacea, the cure-all to BC's housing affordability issues. And are they really? And what do builders really think? All right, so let's circle back to that question about 80% of Toronto condo investors being cash flow negative. So I got to think, well, is this the same in Vancouver? And this article was saying in Toronto that these 80% are losing about $600 a month negative cash flow. And, well, that's one reason why you're seeing all these listings flood, downtown Toronto listings flood the market, because if you're losing that much money, there's no point to hold on to it. It's not an investment anymore. And sales are now at a 27-year low in Toronto. That's incredible. Now, what's the situation in Vancouver? I don't have exact numbers for you. I don't know what the average investor is making or losing, but I do have stories, anecdotal evidence, and I can tell you that the amount of investors in the marketplace has dwindled. 7 or 8 years ago, maybe 1 out of 5 buyers I worked with was buying a condo for an investment. Today, I would say that's 1 in 10. And I would say even going back as far as 2017, 2018, someone buying a condo for investment was subsidizing the unit. So they weren't cash flow positive. They were generally $200-$300 cash flow negative. Now you might be scratching your head thinking, well, why would someone buy a condo and subsidize it at $300 a month? Well, in Vancouver, the reason why investors would do that is because of the appreciation. They look at the numbers, the long-term history. And the long-term history has been that real estate goes up in value in a desirable city like Vancouver, which I call the California of Canada, because of the nice weather, the mild winters, the mountains, the ocean, and so on. But if you trace it back to, let's say, when we held the Winter Olympics in 2010, where the average condo price was about $430,000, and you trace it to today, 2024, the average condo price is $830,000, according to the Real Estate Board stats. So a seller selling today, sure, they're making a $400,000 profit in most cases, or in some cases, subject to taxes, fees, and so on. That's still a pretty good gain. That's a pretty decent investment. But if you don't believe that the market is going to continue to rise, and certainly if you are too far in the cash flow negative, like minus $600 a month, it doesn't make sense anymore. And I would say of my buyer pool, the amount of investors has dwindled and the cash flow negative has jumped. And it's probably closer to $600-$700 negative if you're buying it. And this is with a 25-30% down payment. Unless you're putting in a 50% down payment, which doesn't make sense to put all that money into an investment condo because you've got other things you can do with it, it's probably not going to work for you. So I don't know. We'll have to see what the market does. I think that there were some good points in the article which said that basically developers have to sell these condos at certain prices because of the development costs. And investors now have no incentive to buy because they can't make cash flow. So what we could see is 3-5 years from now, there's all of a sudden, there's no condos listed on the market. You say, well, where did all the condos go? Well, it's because we went through this rough patch 3, 4, 5 years ago, and developers didn't develop and investors didn't invest. I guess my question is, and I don't have an answer to it, is what's the government's big picture here? The BC government, why do they want is the goal to take private ownership out of investment? Maybe it is. Maybe we're all only supposed to own one home, our current primary residence. And is that a good thing? I don't know. I don't think it is. Okay, second topic I wanted to jump into is trading real estate. I had an interesting one this week where somebody wanted to trade, didn't want to sell their condo, but wanted to trade it for one that they like when it shows up on the MLS. Well, maybe that might work in a small town somewhere in northern Saskatchewan, but that's really not going to work in a big city like Vancouver. It's not practical. I mean, it's a dog's breakfast when you think about it, right? For one thing, you might want to trade a 1-bedroom condo in Cole Harbour, and the person selling it wants to buy a 3-bedroom townhouse, 2-car garage in Coquitlam in the mountains, right? I mean, it's not practical. And most lenders are not going to port a mortgage, right? They're not going to shift the mortgage from one property to another like that. And what's the value of your condo? You might value it at $700,000 and the folks on the other end value it at $610,000, right? So it's totally not doable. If you're ever, now you do see it in real estate textbooks, but it's not something for a big city. Third topic, vendor take-back mortgages. Again, this is one you see in the textbooks, and this is where the seller offers you a mortgage. Most sellers don't want to become the bank. It's not practical. In my 10 years of doing this, I haven't come across it once, maybe once or twice. The closest example I can find present day is there's a developer in the Burnaby area that is offering a 2.99% mortgage for the first 3 years of ownership upon the purchase of one of their new pre-sales. And so if you do the numbers on it, it saves you about $40,000 on the purchase, right? Because you're saving so much on the monthly payments, and that's that's a bone that they're throwing you there. But I haven't seen anything where a seller in the city is offering a mortgage, and it's because they don't need to. It's easy to find a buyer. If you're in a small town, maybe up in Fort Nelson or something, maybe this is something that's useful. Next, 3 ways to buy property. Again, trading is not going to work. What we can do is, the most common way is you sell your place so that you know how much money you're working with, and then you buy. That's 90% of people. Second is you can buy first and then sell, but you can only do this if you financially qualify to carry both properties at the same time. And most people don't. So that's for about 10%. The other option is a subject to sale clause, which means basically I'll buy yours once I'm finished selling my property. Sure. Tends not to work really well in a hot market or with a desirable property. It has worked this year for me twice. I hadn't done it before, but my first 2 sales this year out of the gate were both subject to sales, and it worked. So it can be done for the conservative buyer in you. Moving along, using the term average. I have seen this in newspapers before, like an average net worth or an average income. The problem with averages is, let me paint a short scenario. You got a bar, Bill Gates walks into the bar. Average net worth just went through the roof, right? Everybody's net worth now averages $900 million. You need to use the term median. So this is how just changing one word gives you a completely different picture about what's really going on with incomes and net worths. So what's the median income? What's the median net worth in Canada? That is the way you would should be translating that. All right. Builders on fourplexes. Okay, the province has rolled out this housing plan saying that all lots can be duplexed and fourplexed, or wants to push that through anyway, and through most municipalities that are going to get their way. I had an interesting couple of conversations in the last couple of weeks with getting the inside take, the builder's point of view, and most builders are not too keen on this. Now, a couple of things that come with it is, as one agent was telling me, if a buyer's buying a half duplex, they're always asking, who's the neighbor over there, right? Who lives there? Do they play loud music? Does their food stink? People think like that. We may not want that, but people ask those kinds of questions. And, is it a hoarder? Who knows? Now, if you have fourplexes on a single lot, imagine that, imagine what are people going to do? The concern that builders have is that the buyer's now going to ask, who lives there? What about there? And who's that family? What's the family over there? With a fourplex, you're not a part of a strata. And if you don't like your neighbors, too bad. I mean, you're just gonna have to deal with it, and you're all living in a small piece of land, and there's not much you can really do about it. Also, there's additional costs to builders on this. As we talked about in other videos, it's gone from about $15,000 to $83,000 in additional costs, development charges for the unit. If you're running more electricity, hydro, to a fourplex lot, you're going to have to put in a transformer. My understanding is that's going to cost $150,000 to run all that electricity. You're digging out and building 4 waters, 4 sewers, 4 storm systems. So a lot of extra costs. I know here in Burnaby, half duplexes now can be built to 3 levels from the previous 2. Well, you're excavating more dirt. It costs an extra $100,000 to dig out all that dirt. Hopefully don't hit a big rock. That can cost a lot of extra money too. So there's additional costs there. From my discussions, I think it looks like for most builders are probably going to stick with half duplexes for now because they think that there's more of a market for that. Because if you can build into the basement, 3 levels, that's what the basement level is going to be, is rental income, then that can help shoulder the mortgage. And the thoughts there from some builders is that they're going to be putting these newer half duplexes on the market for between 2.5 and 2.7 million. Okay, so look for that. So that's about what I have for you today. And maybe just a couple other thoughts on these half duplexes. Remember that it's not, the builders are taking risks, right? It has to be affordable for them to build. They've got to make a profit. And they have to put down a 65% down payment. You're buying $2 million of land, and you're right out of pocket. You're putting in $1.3 million of your own money. And the banks may be giving you a mortgage on the rest. And they're giving you a mortgage at 9.5 to 10%. It's not the kind of mortgage that you and I get, where we get a 4.5% mortgage. So a lot of risk there, and we'll have to see how the market responds to these fourplexes. Again, it still looks like they're going to be unaffordable. If the going rate for the starting prices for the larger ones is $1.8 million, I don't know that it does anything for affordability. Okay, folks, that's what I got for you today. Love to read what your opinions are. You can put those in the notes below. Thanks for watching.